Hi, I'm Kate and welcome to my channel. Today I want to talk about all of my top makeup products of 2020. So these are the products in each category that I'm grabbing for on a daily basis, the things that continue to be my holy grail items. Alright, the first step of my makeup routine is my brows. So on most days I grab for the Anastasia Beverly Hills Dip Brow Pomade. So I have the shade Dark Brown. If I want something a little faster, I will grab for the ColourPop Brow Boss, also in dark brown, but it's just a really nice thin pencil with a spoolie on the end. It's a great product. For primer, I have not been using a face primer lately. It's winter here in Minnesota, it's very cold, my skin is very dry. Anything I'm trying is just adding to the texture of my skin. So right now, the last step of my skincare routine is my SPF. So I use the Dermalogica Invisible Physical Defense Sunscreen. It's SPF 30. After my skincare, I just kind of tap this all over the face and let it settle in. And I'm really not finding a need for a primer. Looks like I need to buy a new one though. Alright, foundation. So I have tried several foundations this year while my skin has been in different states. And the one that I keep going back to is the Estee Lauder Futurist Hydra. This is fantastic. It's what I'm wearing today. I find that it just looks like my skin, but better. It's a very natural finish. I am in the shade 1N0 Porcelain. It's just a good foundation. It works for me in the summer. It also has SPF 45. And it works for me in the winter. It keeps my skin looking hydrated. It doesn't dry me out. And concealer. I don't wear concealer every day. Just some days I'll put a little kind of under my eyes and in the center of my face to brighten up. But the product that I continue to go back to is the Too Faced Born This Way in the shade Cloud. All right, next up is bronzer. And I got the Marc Jacob bronzer on major discount at Sephora, and I'm really glad I did. So I'm in the shade Tantastic. So it's just a nice, not too warm tone bronzer. It's what I'm wearing today, a little bit. I love that the mirror is so big when I'm traveling or doing my eyeliner. The mirror is big enough for me to be able to see my face nice up close and personal. I have a couple blush products that I've been going between. The one I'm wearing today is from Becca Cosmetics. So this is actually a bronzer, sunlit bronzer in Maui Nights. So I find if I go super pink with the bronzer, it just kind of enhances the pinkness of my skin, which I don't want. This looks super deep in the pan, but it shears out really nicely on the cheeks. Here, my favorite is probably the Patrick Ta. So this is the Oh She's Different Double Take Cream and Powder. So again, it's a shade that looks pretty deep in the pan, but it shears out really nicely. So there's a cream product and a powder product, and they work beautifully alone. They work beautifully together. Another product that I don't wear every day, but I do when I'm feeling fancy, like today, is highlighter. So today I am wearing the Ofra, this is from the Nikki Tutorials collab, the Glazed Donut shade. And it is pretty much a perfect dupe for the ColourPop Super Shock Cheek bleh, in Flexitarian. They're pretty much the same. For finishing powder, I have been using the same Hourglass powder for a very long time. This is the Diffuse Light Ambient Lighting Powder. I don't put this all over my face, I just kind of focus it in the center of my face. It just kind of helps to minimize the appearance of pores, just smooths out my skin a little bit, and I love it. Alright, for lip products, an area that I feel is kind of neglected this year, just with having to wear masks. But what I'm wearing today is from Rare Beauty. This is the Lip Souffle in the color Inspire. And I have two other shades as well. I have the shade Fearless and Courage. And I love the formula. It's very soft. It wears nicely. It doesn't settle into lines. It's not transfer proof, so not something to wear underneath a mask. But I look forward to wearing it more often once we no longer need masks. Another lip product that has a little better staying power than the Rare Beauty is the YSL Lip Stain, Matte Lip Stain. So this is actually what I wore for my wedding. I wore this in the shade Beige Secret. It's just kind of a perfect, simple, blushy nude for me. All right, moving on to the eyes. I'm gonna finish up with eyeshadow palettes because we all know that that is the most fun makeup item to talk about. But for liner, I have tried multiple different ones, but I always come back to the Stila liquid liner. So this is the one with the micro tip. It is so easy, it just glides on, it's easy to make a nice wing, and it will continue to be my go-to. For mascara, I typically am grabbing for the Benefit Roller Lash. I like the shape of the wand. It's kind of slightly curved. It's a nice formula. It doesn't smudge or transfer. It gives my lash a little bit of a lift, keeps them separated. So it's just a nice mascara. And the other mascara, if I'm looking to add a little length on a day that I'm not wearing lashes, I will add the Maybelline Illegal Length. So this one, it looks so cheap, and it is cheap, but it looks extra cheap. It's just a really simple wand. It gets a little clumpy, so it's not something that I would put all over my lash, but it is a fiber mascara, so it just kind of adds that length, but it works really nice. For setting spray, I have been using the IT Cosmetics Your Skin But Better setting spray. So this is just super hydrating. It has hyaluronic acid, coconut water, aloe vera. But for my dry skin, especially my dry winter skin, this just kind of adds a layer of hydration. It doesn't disturb the makeup underneath, and it dries down beautifully. But this has been my go-to. All right, we've almost made it to the end. Last up are eyeshadow palettes. So these are the eyeshadow palettes that I've been grabbing for most in 2020. Not necessarily released this year. I did post a video ranking all of the palettes that I tried in 2020. So a lot of these were not released recently. So number one in that video, number one in my ranking, was the Shroud Cosmetics and Beauty Bean It's Freakin' Bats palette. And it's just amazing. It's not necessarily something that I wear day to day to work, but whenever I'm wanting to do a fun look, something interesting, something for Instagram, I am reaching for this palette. And two other palettes that were also in my rankings of my 2020 palettes that are a couple of my go-to palettes. I have the Star Wars ColourPop Mandalorian palette, the Child. I just love that you can go neutral, you can go green. You can go green, but it feels neutral. And I love greens, but the shimmers perform beautifully, the mattes blend out nice. It's just an overall really nice palette that I grab for pretty often. All right, and the other ColourPop palette that I find myself grabbing for pretty often is the Making Mauves palette. So this, again, it's a little more interesting. It's not fully neutral, but you can make it everyday wearable. I wear this to work. I wear it wherever I want, which is nowhere because of COVID. But it's beautiful. The mattes blend out nicely, the shimmers are beautiful, and it's just a really nice palette. Another favorite eyeshadow palette brand that I have is Juvia's Place, and the one that I grab pretty often is the Nomad. So this is another palette where it's kind of neutrals with a twist. So you can get a very neutral look, but it's a little more grungy toned. This shimmer in the middle is just beautiful, kind of an antique-y gold shade. I love the mattes, I love kind of the grungy green browns, and it's just a really nice palette. Another favorite brand I have for eyeshadow is Melt Cosmetics, specifically the Gemini palette. Now this is one that it's my favorite of all of my Melt palettes. I love the green tones, I love the kind of mustardy neutrals. This is a beautiful black. I don't love the shimmers, but I can really layer a Super Shock shadow on top. If I'm using the greens, the neutrals, I'll often just do a fully matte look. But it's just a beautiful palette, and I reach for it often. The palette that I'm wearing on my eyes today is one that I did not expect to love as much as I do. I found it at TJ Maxx on major discount, and that is the Too Faced Sparkling Pineapple palette. So this is what I have on today. I focused the browns in the crease in the outer corner, and then on top I just went in with this kind of champagne shade, but it is just beautiful. This gold in here as well. It's a little chunkier, but it looks really nice on the lid. It's just a beautiful palette. Like, it's really easy to create a look. I go pretty similar whenever I use it, but this is a great one to travel with. It's pretty sturdy. It is scented, which I don't love, but the scent doesn't stay with you. I think it's supposed to smell like pineapple, and it just smells kind of fake fruity. But the smell goes away. It doesn't stay with you all day, but I love this palette. Another eyeshadow palette brand that I love is Natasha Denona. But out of all of my Natasha palettes, the one that I find myself grabbing for most often is the gold palette. Now this palette, it's another one of those like neutral but not boring palettes. It has some really interesting blue shades, some beautiful neutrals, and the shimmers are just insane. I have so much glitter on my hand, you probably can't even see them. But this is just a very special palette. I love kind of the mustardy tones. You can go very neutral, add those pops of blue, and it's something that I grab for probably once a week. Even though I have a really big collection, this is one I grab for pretty often. And that's the end of the video. Those are all of my top favorites for 2020. Please like and subscribe and leave a comment below. Tell me what your top products of 2020 have been.